traversing the strange world with peace and toodles.
Hey strangers, what is up? We're back again. I'm Toodles, and today I'm not in it. Isaiah thought that he could get away with doing an episode without me in it, so I guess one of these days I'll have to return the favor and do a solo episode and just post it up on that RSS feed and let him find it some week and see how he feels when the tables are turned. But anyway, it's worth it. We have old friend of Isaiah's, old acquaintance of mine, Phil Brothers, back in the saddle. The audio is not the greatest. It was recorded over a Zoom call with a phone on both ends, and it's a little less than ideal. But we tried to make it work, so bear with it. If you can't, we understand. But if you like it, or even if you don't forget to subscribe and like and comment and all the normal drill. You know, leave a good one, we'll take it to heart. Leave a bad one, we'll just, maybe make fun of it later when the mics are off. But without further ado, here we go. Peace and Phil Broskies.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Traversing the Strange World with Peace and Toodles. Unfortunately, Jonathan is unable to be with us today, but I am here with a longtime friend of mine and fellow podcaster, Phil Brothers. Phil Brothers, how are you doing today?
Fantastic and fabulous and excellent, all whipped up together in a casserole with a cherry on top.
That sounds excellent. Phil Brothers, he is the host of the podcast Phil Brothers Journey, which it can be found anywhere where there's podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. If you see an episode title with my name on it, though, just keep scrolling. The one with DeFrancisco or Josh Brown, much better conversation.
Just keep scrolling. What was one of the content things that you remember we talked about on there?
We talked about me deconstructing from messianic to agnostic. We discussed the poopy washer story. I think that was the gist of it for the most part. I remember we went running just before then through the snow because this is wintertime, and then we made snow angels.
I do.
Without it, we were in like our boxers or gym shorts, something like gym shorts. Yeah, we wouldn't go jogging down the road in our boxers.
Yep.
Certainly not.
Great memory there. And now that you're saying, I remember the social media posts were famous for with each other only.
Yes. So me and Phil, we go way back. He was at the very first church that I ever attended, Messiah Fellowship in Brighton, Indiana. That is the church that I've mentioned that we started going down the path of Messianic Hebrew Roots movement. And also in previous episodes, I'll talk about various open-minded people throughout my spiritual journey, and much early on in it that we'd have deep conversations with, and we'd discuss philosophy of the rabbis, Hasidic Judaism. Phil's one of those friends I'd have those discussions with.
It was good times. What was I going to think about? You said, I lost it. My brain's not working the best today.
You're a good man.
Sometimes.
So we both started out Messianic Hebrew Roots movement. That's where we met each other.
I just got it back. And all of which were forbidden and banned and heavily frowned upon to talk about rabbinic outlook and Hasidic Judaism.
Yes. At Messiah Fellowship.
Correct.
Is that what you're talking about? Yes. I haven't talked about this much on the podcast, but the very first church that we attended that was Messianic, even though this church would not like to be called Messianic.
Right.
They kind of went down a bit of a culty road. We haven't really talked about it much, but they, in terms of the broader Messianic Hebrew roots movement, they were very closed off. They would find a problem with any other congregation, like, oh, we can't fellowship with them for such and such reason, and which to most, to me, in the broader scheme of things, it seems small. Apparently, to them, it was a big deal. But compared to a lot of other Messianic Hebrew roots churches, they were very, very closed off, kind of cliquish, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, if you're not in our little tiny box in a cornfield in Indiana, you probably don't got it right. So you probably should come ask us about it.
Probably don't know God even.
Right, exactly. You might be a heathen.
Probably actually worshiping the devil and don't know it.
Right, exactly. Your children are literally being offered as sacrifices by their lifestyle of not doing exactly what we say.
Yes. That is probably how they would interpret it.
So an interesting thing about that, right? So, and we talked about this in our unsuccessful recording a while back.
Yes.
But
yeah, we had tried to record an episode together. I think it was about 2 months ago by now.
Probably about, right?
And something happened. I don't even know what it was, but nonetheless, that episode is lost into the void, and we're re-recording it today. But you were saying.
Yes. So your narrative, were you in a cult or not? And how do you kind of elaborate on that in your mind of what that looks like?
Okay, so were we in a cult? If not a cult, there were certainly aspects that were very culty. You know, like there was this period of time where Pastor Ron, I don't know if you remember this or not, but he would quote where Jesus said, you know, there's some Jesus' disciples are like, Jesus, your brothers and your mother, they're trying to get to you, but the crowd is blocking them off. And Jesus replies, who is my mother? Who is my brother? Those who do the will of the Father.
Yeah.
And Messiah Fellowship, they took the will of the Father as you need to believe in Jesus and you need to be observing Torah like them. So a lot of even Messianic people, Jewish people, Christian people, they would refer to them as lawless. They would refer to them as almost non-believers sometimes. So that's one aspect, is the everybody's wrong. And then they would put a strong emphasis on we're your brothers, we're your sisters. Those people who believe differently, even minusculely. So that's one aspect that was very culty. And then again, I know to a lot of people, this is probably going over their heads, but within the Messianic Hebrew roots movement, some of the churches only meet on first, second Saturday of the month. So you'd have time to maybe go swap another church, and go there, and people would go to each other's churches, and they're very open and connected. Again, that wasn't the vibe with Messiah Fellowship. If you went to one of those, even if you missed a Sabbath gathering, they would be asking you about that. And again, you were one of those people who you'd bring up ideas such as rabbinic ideas to them that were probably too Jewish. Yeah. And that would cause a big hubbubaloo. To me, that seems very culty. So if not a cult, certainly culty aspects, and even since then, some of them live in communal living now, which again, that's very culty. So I report, you decide.
Yeah. So again, we talked a little bit about this. So the narrative for me, and maybe I'm just in denial, but for me to admit, yes, I was in a cult. It's very difficult for me. That's not the conclusion I come to, but I also can see exactly what you're saying. And I fully agree. Everything you're saying is trying to gain control, trying to keep control, trying to keep their way of doing things, and using manipulation or social, awkwardness techniques. Hey, we're here. Why are you being an outsider? And then using that language to kind of guilt people into coming back into the fold the way that they want you to and think you should. Now, again, Josh Brown has the narrative. We were in a cult, and my eldest, Zakaria, believes that. I think my ex would say that as well. I think Ellie's kind of borderline on that, but I think she would more come to like the culty aspects. But either way, the reference is made constantly. Hey, when we were in a cult, this thing, right? That's
just
my
like me and you. We weren't Jewish, but we were Jewish. Like we
right.
we did Jewish things. You know, they're not. Maybe at the time they weren't a cult, but you would agree they were certainly cultish. Yes.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, there was very much power hungry, control hungry. Manipulative. So for sure, all those aspects were present. I think the cult piece is just more, for me, it's almost like when you feel like trapped, like you cannot get out, you're not allowed to get out, like that, like horrible things will happen to you. There was a little bit of that pressure when we were leaving, and basically like firmly asked to leave, not kicked out. This was very important for the verbiage, right? We're not kicking you out, but just pointing out the fact.
Did my boot hit you? Did my boot hit you?
Exactly right. It's like, oh, that door's locked and closed. Oh, but no, we didn't kick you out. So
there was no kicking involved.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and actually, you're right with what you're doing. They're very, very literal many times just to, whatever, prove their point. And again, that's their, I guess, prerogative. Back to
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So I feel like cults is like you just feel like you can't leave, or if you leave, something horrible will happen. I didn't necessarily believe that. I think because I was in contact with other communities and other thought processes, and like my experience and journey well preceded that group of people, and I had many other connections outside of that group of people. Is like, okay, if that goes away, I still have plenty of community support, friends. This isn't my all in all. And I think they wanted it to be most people's all in all, to the point where now they all live together and it is everything that they have and know as a general rule.
Right. Because you have to ask yourself, why are they having such an issue with us going out into other fellowships, listening to other teachers? Certainly there was a control aspect to that.
Yeah. We want to control the narrative and the interpretation. And if you explore something else, you might actually bring ideas to the flock. And we can't have that because we're not actually studied. We don't actually have degrees. We don't actually have the scholarship to back up what we do. We're old and we've done it for a while, and so we have the answers.
On your end, are you hearing a lot of that rain?
I don't hear any.
Okay, good. It'll add a nice aspect to the podcast, actually. Make it a bit dramatic. Maybe we'll add some piano to the background.
Good call. Hopefully Alanis Morissette singing as well. Just humming though.
It's certainly that form of leadership to me sounds a lot more like cattle wrangling than leading. When you think of a leader, you think of they're leading by example, and you would like your leaders to have like a certain sense of confidence to where they're not threatened by, because like good leadership, when I think of it, I think of delegation, right? You're giving, so all the weight isn't on you, but.
Yes. I think as I reflect too on that, right, like the desire or like strong need to keep the power, keep the narrative, stay in control is like such a commentary, I think, on like early childhood of these leaders and development and lack of development, usually unhealed traumas of some sort, and all under the guise of, well, I've been healed by the blood of Jesus. I don't need therapy. I don't need to heal from that. I've been healed once I said the Jesus prayer. Now I have the blood. And and then now I'm in control and I'll do it the way I need to. And it's just, I don't know. It's a bizarre experience for sure.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see them, no. Yeah. They would definitely invalidate any type of validity that like therapy or counseling It's like, it would be like, what's wrong with your relationship with God to where you need to be going to secular counselors?
Yeah. Lawless.
Right.
Yes, psychobabble is what they would call it.
Psychobabble, yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a bizarre thing. Again, it's putting this spin on something, making it seem so bad, negative, evil, that who would even consider doing that, when ironically the amount of, I guess, trauma healing and black and white thinking. I mean, there's so many, bizarre, I want to say the word deviant, but it's not the word I'm thinking. Just misconstrued ideas that can continue to be propagated because they're not checked by any other outside source.
Yes. And that's a good point, because something about when I left there, I feel like that point really influenced me in the sense of, it's kind of hard now for me to say, like, per se, join a group. Like, I'm going to join Buddhism, I'm going to join Judaism, because, like, there was this separatist thinking in Messiah Fellowship to where the way they would talk about Messianic people, they didn't identify as Messianic, but the way they would talk about the Messianics. And then when I got out of Messiah Fellowship and started going to other congregations, and I saw, the things they said about them don't seem to be true. And later that summer, just right after we started going to that closed-minded church, we actually started meeting with a totally different group where they didn't even believe in Jesus in terms of, like, him being a Messiah. And we started meeting with a Hasidic rabbi. And then I'm like, wow, Messiah Fellowship, Messianic people, they're saying these borderline anti-Semitic things, but I'm seeing an immense amount of wisdom from this rabbi and in Judaism. And just earlier that summer, I had listened to a teaching by Rico Cortez where it was about the schools of Hillel and the schools of Shammai. And if you study those two schools, the Pharisees that Jesus was in conflict against was evidently the school of Shammai. They were the ones that they held these strong separatist mentalities to where, like, they wouldn't help in the story of the Good Samaritan when he was on the side of the road, beaten and robbed, they wouldn't help him. They said, Jesus in Matthew 23:23, he says, they've neglected the weightier matters of the law, mercy, justice, and faith. But the school of Hillel, a totally different school, Jesus had a lot in alignment with them, right? Yeah. So in the summer, it was the summer of 2020, or it was the summer of 2012, my mind suddenly was open to this wider world, and it became very evident to me that groups say things about other groups, they demonize them, but it's not true. People aren't as bad as your people speak of them being.
Yep. And to add to that, right, I think some of that is like, I think there's a book by Adam Grant called How People Change Their Minds, something like that. And and it talks a lot about, like, emotionally we are attached to an idea. So, like, we'll go with Republican and Democrats, freedom. If you say the word freedom, do you support freedom? Everyone's going to say yes.
Yeah.
How we express and go about that, substantially different.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that's the kind of the concept is, like, do you support humans having a relationship with God? Yes. Great. We're all in agreement. No. The how is so important. We're going to scrutinize and then polarize, and then their version of freedom, boo, ours, the best. And it's unfortunate. And again, everyone has a reason why they're going about that how for them. Usually it's past personal experiences, different beliefs, again, regions. Where did you grow up? What is your family like? That's why you do the things you do, and believe the how is different than, someone across the line. But the challenge is not polarizing to where we're like you said, demonizing or making someone an adversary because they believe a little differently on the how. They still believe in the freedom. It's just that how is a little different.
Yeah, so the how and in the process not to demonize other people. Why do you think we do that? Why do you think we demonize other people?
Yeah, I think there's many different.
Why do you think we demonize other hows? Like if you might be talking about doing the same thing, but
Yeah, I think it's a defense mechanism. It's a great question, and it's multifaceted, but usually it stems from like what seems like deeper fears, deeper things that we're trying to compensate for, and what makes us feel safe. As people groups, we want to feel safe. I don't know if it's evolutionary or what the deal is, but this makes me feel safe on this level of how. And therefore, if it's different, right, black and white, keeping it simple, we don't want to, the nuance is very difficult. The paradox is hard to wrestle with. It's hard to juggle and sort through, where there could be some good to their side of things. There could be some good in their how, because then it causes, I guess, lack of confidence in what we're doing. And therefore that touches our ego. And especially if we have bruised or sensitive egos, then that's just where that defense mechanism comes up to protect familiar. So I don't know if that sounds like a bunch of babble, but that is my thought process on that.
No, that totally makes sense. We see outsiders as dangerous, potentially dangerous, and so you want to protect the group. You want to protect the pie, right, so to speak.
And the fear is so strong in our, I guess, survival instincts, that's keeping that on alert and keeping it as high intensity to be safe kicks in there.
That the fear aspect of it's an aspect that I feel is very loud within kind of like Judeo-Christian, but the Christian structure a lot more than like that's something that really appealed to me about Judaism. Is like it wasn't a fear-based religion. It's very much motivated by wisdom, living a good quality life. Because when it comes to Judaism, there's like, and again, that's another thing about this bigger world that I discovered. Like the rabbis might say 50 different things about, salvation, afterlife. Like with Judaism, you can actually like, it's kind of cool. You can do the same thing with Buddhism, to where Buddhism, you can disconnect it from all the spirituality, and it's a philosophy, right? And with Judaism, you can, in a certain sense, disconnect it from the religion, and it's this evolution of a culture's ideas, particularly the idea of one God. What does it mean to worship or believe in one God? What does that look like? It's like the evolution of that idea. Yeah. And along with that, there's an evolution of ideas and, just how to live a good life, how to treat your neighbor properly. So
true. Interesting though, on your interpretation and your experience of Judaism, starting with that story you told about studying with, was it Rabbi Holler?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Look at that memory, dog. What's up?
Yeah. Good job, man.
But with the way that he would bring out the beauty of faith and life and existence and expression, and the way that he
especially Hasidic Judaism, and how much they value compassion and mercy.
Yes. So that's your version and your experience of that. I have a friend who grew up Orthodox in Brooklyn, in that area, and he despises it. He hates it. He's an atheist. He does not believe in God because of such the negativity and judgmental, firm, like strict area. So that is the version that he experienced, to which it does not sit well with him, and he does not respect that philosophy. Whereas you've seen a different experience with different individuals that have painted a different picture for you. And that's back to the how, right? And so much of that has shaped both of your opinions, and they're drastically different.
Because to me, I associate with it with a broader world, in the sense of it's bigger than, I was homeschooled, And then for most of my life, until then, I was raised in this kind of fringe movement and with these ideas that most people, eating kosher, keeping Sabbath, celebrating Hanukkah, most people weren't familiar with that. Well, we didn't celebrate Hanukkah yet, but and so like the idea of like delving into the ideas of a different, that was just like it was exciting. It was a bigger world to me. I've since then my world's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, but that certainly did what, it's just like I think people when I talk to people about deconstructing, if they're like a fundamentalist, if they'll make this assumption that you're angry at God or you're angry at religion. And I don't feel like I'm a guy that really, I here on the podcast, we've had conversations with people of varying faiths, varying life philosophies. And I don't really feel like I'm somebody who's like angry at religion or like, but they project that because I think that, and I certainly did have bad things happen to me in religion by religious people, but that's just kind of like any group if you're in it long enough, because that's human nature, right? We sometimes identify even our own group members as the other. They've suddenly become an other and they're singled out. And like you said, I think that's a big part of the human predicament, right? If you could grow up, you could be you could on the left be a social rights activist your whole life, and you're probably even in those circles going to see some ugly people, just because it's something that no matter where you're at, it's not because of religion. No matter where you're at, you're going to have to traverse through that. I feel because it's part of the human condition. What do you think about that, man?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you come across as angry about it. You want to open your mind. You want to experience life in the manner that you want to, and your terms, in the way that you understand, and the way that you go about it. And being told how you're supposed to do that by someone who supposedly has more authority or connection with God or wisdom or fill in the blank, supposedly more, then therefore you should just go under their influence as an organization to help them feel comfortable in the how that they have chosen. And the more we gather in this, the better we feel in that. While at the same time, the other side is true where I want to feel extra special amongst the special people because I keep the Sabbath extra tight, or I do these extra things, which is very Pharisaical in the way that Jesus would, be like, you strain out a gnat, or you swallow something, strain out a gnat. What is
you swallow a camel and strain a gnat?
Yeah, so it's like you're so focused on the minutia of making yourself this most elite, but you also want as many people to like kind of join you and help, I guess, validate your how. So it's just a bizarre grouping mechanism. I know there was another aspect I had that I lost. Everybody has like a reason of why they're choosing that version, right? And so, again, for me, I was 16 and my parents got divorced, and like kind of my mom was getting remarried, and I didn't feel any focus or attention here, and my dad went overseas, and so it was like, okay, I'm kind of like this lost, what felt like almost like orphan, abandoned, like, so I didn't feel that in the moment. In the moment, I was like, I'm 16, I'm free, like I can do whatever I want, no one's here. But as I look back and kind of process what was going on, I was looking for connection of some sort and kind of feeling lost and unloved and unsure of my value, my worth, and the version of, religion that felt new, it felt fresh, it felt, oh, this is special. It's not my mainstream vision of faith anymore. And so I need to follow that because that's the narrower path, and this feels more right.
More structured, perhaps.
Yes.
And
so, or more scholarly, right? More logically scholarly with the Bible as a whole You do the Old Testament and the New Testament. Okay, that makes sense. Here's our reasonings. Boom, 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 boom. And the world might be ending, so there's some fear tied to that too with end time stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so it depends on the status of where everybody is in life as well and what they're looking for, what they need, and we will search to find those things and attach to usually the first or most intense thing that comes by.
Because it's certainly like you're saying, like, we use these things, right? Like, because I believe, like, our life philosophies, it's a tool to help us traverse through life, right? And for you, that it appealed as being more structured, more, maybe perhaps, did you feel like it's a time where it started to bring out better qualities of you at all?
Better qualities. So I think the better aspect felt was more in the line of like feeling quote unquote closer to God because I'm doing more for God. I'm keeping Sabbath, I'm keeping kosher, I'm doing these things. Whereas in Christianity, it was a lot more ethereal, hard to measure, hard to quantify. Whereas in Messianic, I could like quantify, I'm doing X amount of commandments or I'm doing it this well, right? And so like I have such a competitive nature. I think that was given to me in my childhood of like competing. And so I want to be the best. And if you're the best, then you validate your worth. You validate your existence. And if you're not, what I was taught, again, by action was, then you're not worth spending time and attention on if you're not the best, if you're not worthy of that. That was in sports. That was in school. A's only, no B's and C's or else, it's whatever.
Your dad was military, right?
Correct.
Yes. I imagine.
So that had an effect on me, and that narrative still comes up. You're not doing it well enough. You can always do better. You can give more. And it's like this constant stress, pressure to do better, do more, and resting and being at peace with as is and contentment is a very challenging thing to come to.
Same here.
So that again ties into religion because religion can feed right off of that. Great, compete, go for it. Be the best.
Feed into your feeling of not feeling good enough too.
Absolutely, yeah, and then that's the constant cycle, like the guilt cycle.
Yeah, it's really it's like a big marketing technique for anything that anyone's trying to sell. You're missing something, and we have the solution.
Yep, that's right. And even that, just like what you said there, even that principle, that baseline. People are born sinners. They need to be redeemed from their very get-go and origin, which, again, I think a lot of the Eastern Church does not succumb to that belief system, right? Like they're non-dual as well. Like, so, again, you're a sinner. You need to be redeemed for that. You need to be saved from your sins or Adam's original sin or something, fill in the blank.
Right.
And there's a lot of, in the Eastern Orthodox, from my understanding, that's not the case. You are born pure and you are born whole and you are born again with the image of God. I think Richard Rohr talks about this as well. And just, it's not the way that it's posed in many evangelical circles that you just need to be begging and pleading for your horrible condition that isn't even yours to own. It's from ancestry or whatever.
So what would you say the basis of it is? Like, what is the person trying to attain within that school of thinking?
The school of thinking of you're born evil and you need to be.
No. Like you're saying that's not the mentality of like the Eastern Orthodox Church. Do you know, like Buddhism, the goal is to be alleviated of suffering through attachment. Judaism is, there's a lot of different takes on what the goal of that, but it's to be blessed. Basically, you observe the Torah and you're blessed in the land that God gave you. What's the goal of it? If it's not that, if it doesn't emphasize so much on the duality, what do they emphasize on?
Yeah, so I'm not an expert, so I can't fully answer that. I think I can do my version or my best impersonation or impression of what I've gathered, and then how I've maybe
the PVV. We want is the PVV, the Pill Brothers version.
That's what's up. You about to get that right now. Mm-hmm. So, I think just experiencing the beauty of life and the gratitude of being alive and having that opportunity connecting with God, which is all around us, right? Nature, each other, the image of God being in each other, and from all things came from one source. And so appreciating that seeming difference between you and I are actually of the same spirit and the same source. So appreciating that and meditating on that oneness. And then again, love your neighbor as yourself, treat others, not only just humans, but again, animals, nature, with respect, with honor.
Lifestyle, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but be part of the beauty, because that beauty is within you and is you. And that is a different message of the beauty and image of God is within you, and you are connected to all around you. Celebrate that and do your best to represent that and connect with that. That's substantially different than your sin. You're going to go to hell unless you say the special prayer and then become part of this club the way that we say you need to.
The goal isn't a alleviation of a punishment that may come after this existence. It's to dwell within this existence more abundantly, to maximize our well-being.
Right. Truth. That's how I have gathered it. And again, I'm sure some experts out there. First of all, let's be honest. What Eastern Church experts are going to be listening to this, who knows? But
yes,
if they have something to add, they can write into the coffers of letters that I did.
Jim, if you're listening to this, let us know how we did.
Jim, yeah, we'd be
Jim DeFrancisco.
We'd be glad to be corrected.
Yeah, so I would say, having disconnected from organized religion, from any type of narrative of who God is, I would kind of say my faith right now is like a back to the basics, meat and potatoes type faith. I believe in God. He's mysterious. Don't know anything about him. I pray. And those prayers oftentimes get answered. So I have, this belief in something bigger, something sublime. And that makes life seem it feels like a new layer has been added to life. To the world, it seems exciting. It seems like it's beaming with potential now, have this fire in me. I'm excited. But I don't go by this narrative, so I don't like an organized religion. It kind of it defines an aim for you. You're doing this, so you're accepting Jesus, so you're saved by the coming damnation. For me, I would say my spiritual aim, it's living a good life, maximizing well-being, living life more abundantly. Because really, I feel like when you don't know, you got to stick to what you do know. And we do know that every action has a reaction. There's certain actions, there's certain things that we could do that is very clearly, evidently going to cause a bad outcome. Lying, being deceitful. It's going to eat away at the fabrics of our, social structures. You can't you don't live life more abundantly. You have this distrust with each other. You're looking over your shoulder. There certainly is a life, there's actions that are clearly wise and there's ones that are clearly foolish. So the aim is to land more in the realm of wisdom versus foolishness, and I associate with wisdom and foolishness. With foolishness, it takes away from your well-being and the well-being of others. Wisdom adds to that.
Nice. Yeah. And I think on top, to go another step, again, I've been learning a lot about, trauma and healing from trauma and how that affects us developmentally. I think it also affects us in the religion that we choose, or the way that we choose to express our faith is what kind of trauma do we have from our past? Have we healed from that, or are we healing from that? Because it's kind of like grief, right? You lose somebody who's close to you. That sadness just doesn't go away forever, and you just experience once and you're healed. It's a ebb and flow and an up and down, and it comes and goes. And so I think that is the same with healing trauma. Like sometimes it's less active and less concerning, and then when you're in an experience that feels very similar to that trauma, then that can be more activated and present. It doesn't mean that you're rid of it because you say that you are, or that you, again, plead the blood of Jesus that now I'm healed and I don't ever have to experience those traumatic reactions that may be induced with, fearful situations, very sad situations. So anyways, I don't know where I was going with that, but the well-being, taking away from the well-being, right? There's different levels and degrees of that, right? So there's a book I'm reading from Dr. Gabor Mate, and he treats like heavy-duty addicts for heroin, cocaine, a handful of other ones, and he basically injects them with something that will help ease those cravings. And so he's trying to help addicts basically alleviate suffering with the fact that very few of them are actually going to just stop using altogether. It's just not a normal thing because their brains have basically been wired to have to need this, barring substantial healing and in-depth programs, which most don't want. They want this to numb their sadness and pain because most of them were abused in some way, shape, or form growing up. And now they have to numb that pain. It's a whole other level of taking somebody else's well-being away to the point where it debilitates them to live life fully. And that is both angering to me, and it's very sad to see that. And again, it's so much, the world is so much bigger. There's so many more complexities than we realize of some of this suffering that people are going through that hasn't even come close to our radar because it hasn't.
And a lot of times they didn't choose it either, right? It was just the condition they were born into.
Yeah, they're never choosing it. No one is choosing to get dramatically abused to that degree, right? And even if, like, let's say you go the opposite way. Hey, you got this kid and this well taken care of house and it's perfect and there's no problem, there's no challenge. Well, what are they experiencing? Are they experiencing a lack of attention, connection with their parents, and so therefore they feel lonely and they feel pain there, but they don't feel they can talk about it. So now they use drugs, and that helps numb that pain. And that all stems from a traumatic experience of not feeling loved and appreciated. So, they're not choosing that. They're choosing to use the drugs to numb, but they didn't choose to have this in-depth feeling of abandonment or neglect. So it's rough. I'll do the Forrest Gump. That's all I got to say about that.
And that's all I have to say about that. Well, and then oftentimes, maybe they inherited that from their parents. You grew up seeing mom and dad use, and it's just, everybody does it. Everybody, it's the world that you grew up in, right? It's normal. It's weird to not, maybe in some, it's just it's like there's a world to me when I was younger that was completely normal and very strange to other people. And it's just sad that some people, they're born into a world where a lot of the comfortable aspects of life that we enjoy, that's the strange thing to them,
Right.
That they don't, most of their life was pain, pain.
Yes. Yep. No, that's right.
And you say this is a book. This is from a book you were reading.
Yeah. So Gabor Mate wrote a book called something about hungry ghosts. The hungry ghosts something or other. But nevertheless, yeah, he worked in this hospital / hotel up in Canada, and it was a illegal injection site ultimately. So they can come there, they treat addicts, they let them live there. But again, they're constantly going out on the street, turning tricks or doing whatever, selling drugs, getting more drugs, getting high for X time, and then they don't have those drugs. They come back in for treatment. It's just this repeat. But
Cycle.
ultimately, yeah, but his outlook is just very, very compassionate and saying their brains from years of and generations of hand-me-down mindsets and poverty, and of course they're going to be stuck in this pattern. That is the way that it is set up for them. To make it out is basically mathematically impossible. You know, can you have 1 out of a million? Maybe. But if you're in a generational scenario like that, to seek and get help and then pull yourself up from your bootstraps type of thing, you don't have the brain power, the brain mechanisms, and the reaction mechanisms to even set you up with a chance without substantial intervention. And there's just not resources in the government or in healthcare there to actually get that level of help. So it's just a stuck cycle, and they're the lowest of the low of society. So who cares about those addicts? They're choosing it themselves is the narrative. And Gabor substantially disagrees with that and says, no, again, a lot of them are indigenous, right? So the indigenous population in Canada, they were taken over. They were taken from their families. They were taught they couldn't use their own language. And then they're traumatized from that. And they're just expected just to be normal Canadian citizens and go about their life and just forget that. That shit just doesn't go away. And that stays with, even in genetics, that's some of the things that they're seeing. Like, I think he was a Holocaust survivor and his parents were, and that went, from grandma. And so just even seeing the pain that his parents had to go through and reading, he was so young, but it just would just sit and simmer. And he said, I could just sense it and I couldn't put words to it till much later, but it's absolutely generational. It's absolutely learned. And again, it's so tough for those who are stuck in that cycle. It's very tough to get out. It's sad.
His heart that you speak of, the approach that he's taking, the kindness, patience, it makes me think of, I've had this on my mind a lot lately, and it's how I try. I often fail, but it's how I try to approach other people in compassion. Jesus says when he's dying on the cross, he says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Now, in that context, he's the Son of God. They're crucifying him. He's saying, I'm the Son of God. They're killing me. Forgive them, for they know what they do. But what if we just apply that to anybody? And in the context of the mistakes they make, the condition they're in, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because in a lot of ways, we're a domino effect of experiences, right? And some of those experiences were unraveling before we were even cognitive enough to know what's going on, before we even were aware or cognitive enough of the tools that we could use to do anything about those patterns that probably a lot of times, sometimes existed before we were even born, talking about generational patterns, generational curses, conditions that, addictions, abuse existing in families for a long time. And then you're just born into that. And you're a domino effect of experiences. You have this totally different outlook on life. And we don't know what we do sometimes, we don't know why we do it. So I think there was a point where I had read that, and it kind of, I felt challenged to look at people that way.
Yeah. And so how that's your goal is to look at most people like that?
Forgive them, for they know not what. Just look at people as in the bigger picture of the walking domino effect of experience that they are,
Yeah.
where they come from.
Yeah.
It's like they're just like a book. Don't jump to a quick context. Seek out the broader context, right?
Yeah. And again, people normally aren't going around the world intending to do intentional damage. They're not intending to be a jerk, right? So like even like a scenario where a Karen is at a store and she's yelling at a manager because this thing's not perfectly right for her pampered ass of what she's used to. But again, to her, justice is very important, and following rules is very important, and doing what's right is very important, to the point where she's willing to stand up for what she believes, so much so that she's going to go above and beyond to firmly let it known in a firm voice, maybe even a loud voice, says, I'm not going to stand for this perceived injustice. This should have been a pink, button over here and it was a blue one, and I'm going to let you know about it because I'm pissed, because that's not the way it should be in my belief system.
Right.
And so we're just like all a bunch of people going around standing up for our belief systems, mostly, again, formed by our experiences in young childhood. And again, a lot of that alleviating from running from pain, fear, sadness. And it's probably an oversimplification, but many instances, and from my personal experience, it's what it feels like. And so giving that benefit of the doubt, or that space for, hey, that person has gone through a lot of experiences to get to them to this point. There's a reason they're reacting this way. I might
not entirely know everything that's going on here.
It might make me feel uncomfortable. I might not like it at the time, and I might not understand it. However, it's still, there's a reason for it, and they're not just trying to be evil people that's ruining other people's lives. That's not the intention behind it. It ends up happening that way, unfortunately, but the intention typically is for some more meaningful connection for the way they value life and experience, which is usually substantially different from ours when we're made to feel that uncomfortable.
I was listening to an album of a live concert of a band that I love called Me Without You, and there's this point in the concert where their singer Aaron Wise, he's going on, he's talking to the audience, and there's this point where he says one of the most loving things you can do for somebody is to say, I don't think I know what completely is going on here. I don't think I know you completely.
Yeah.
Because then the reality of a bigger mystery of what you can actually learn about that person opens up, other than when we have these assumptions. And you know what they say about people that assume.
They make an ass out of you and me.
And me. Mm.
No, but that's right. And I think assumptions is another thing. It's a shortcut that our brains have created to just say, I don't need to hear the whole story. I've seen enough. I know. Let's move on. Right? It's like our brains are like a filter to sort through for important or scary or big things. And so, oh, shoot, there's a lion coming at us. Bam, big thing, attention, focus. But we're scanning through the rest of the environment. It's like, hey, not important, squirrel, bird, whatever, not important. Look for the big things that can get me food, that can protect me and keep me safe, that can get me status to keep me continually safe. Those are the main core ways that we're rolling with. And because of that, we assume, or we read into behavior that, oh, I've seen someone act like that before. It's probably the same. Move on. I know who you are. I know what kind of person you are within seconds. Instead of the opposite is it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of interest to say, yes, this is a valuable human being that deserves some level of understanding, to be understood. Do I have that energy or ability to do that in this space? Sometimes the answer is no. But nevertheless, they deserve that on some level, instead of me just writing them off as, okay, I don't like that person. They're a bad person, right? Then we label them at their identity instead of just they're having a bad day. They're having a challenge verbalizing what's going on for them, so they're coming across this way. It's very hard for our brain to go against the grain of shortcut. They're a jerk, move on. Yeah, but it's important. It's an important exercise that I think we would do well to get very curious with our fellow humans, especially the ones that are substantially different, that so hard to fathom how they got to that belief system or experience.
Yes, yeah.
If we give enough attention and patience with that person, we at least would have a closer step to understanding, even if we don't necessarily agree.
And that's kind of something that's like a theme I see with mine and yours conversation today, because like it's part of like our human condition to be almost triggered or scared by not knowing the answer, not knowing a person, right? Or like, to people of the religion that we came out of, or to fundamentalists, because you're not messianic anymore,
Right. I wouldn't take on that title, correct?
And, yes. And so they see us out here saying like, we don't know. There's a lot that you could ask me what I believe. Do you believe that? And I'd be like, I don't know. But despite that being part of our condition to be, the human condition to be scared of the unknown, a theme that I'm seeing in this conversation is to say, I don't know, in many different situations and conditions can sometimes be the best thing, the most helpful thing to yourselves and others that you can do.
Yeah, and it's a very humbling and scary place to be, especially if you're power hungry or you want to take hold of this some level of what usually seems like false certainty. Nevertheless, feigned certainty. I know that I know that I know this thing that's very unknowable, very unprovable. Like, it's just like, well, why are we putting so much stock and energy into these things you supposedly know and you can't actually prove?
Right.
And your version of that is supposedly more important or better or smarter than the next person's, belief on that. And so just like you said, that humility of being at peace with I am powerless in this universe in many ways and instances, and I want to make peace with that versus striving for this certainty, striving for, I know the rules of the universe, here they are. If you do those things, then you'll have this relationship with God and then everything will work out and no worries. It might be hard sometimes, but nevertheless, you're certain, the outcome, you're going to heaven, or the outcome, at least you're tight with God. And these trials and tribulations you might go through are proof of that, because God does that for those he loves. When again, it says is it the Song of Solomon, where God reigns, on the wicked and the righteous alike.
Yeah.
They both get rain. So
right.
It's different messaging with that, but back to the humility and being willing to realize I don't have all the answers. There's no way I could, and I can still come to peace with that powerlessness.
There's a lot of things I don't know, but one thing that I do know is the universe is enshrouded in chaos. There's chaos everywhere. It's the good, the comfortable, that's not normal. Chaos and pain, that seems to be the more normal thing throughout the universe. But despite all that, despite me not knowing the answers, despite me not having control, in the midst of all this chaos, we live in this world where there seems to be a sense of order, and there is comfort that we can find. And I don't have anything to do with all that,
Yeah, and I think it's the paradox to both exist at the same time. There can be order. I can control certain aspects. I can control what I put in my body. I can control how I try to think. And even when thoughts or feelings come up that maybe I don't want, or I'm not welcome, or I don't understand, I can just accept them. And then I can decide to...
We can control how we react.
And I can control how I react. I can control how deeply I entertain those thoughts or feelings, versus letting them move on and focusing on something more productive or
yes,
contributing to well-being, I think is the way that you were putting it. But I can't control so many aspects. So, a quick story. Amalia, my 16-year-old, was just warming up for a tennis match, threw up the tennis ball, just nice little warm-up swing, does like a little jump serve, lands weirdly on her foot, and she's been unable to put pressure on that foot for 3 weeks now.
3 weeks, wow.
And it's like such a freak, weird scenario. She didn't twist her ankle. It's not really broken. There's an MRI done like on her tendons and ligaments. It's probably like what they call a Liz Frank injury. It's probably going to need surgery. It's like all these things. Like I didn't choose for all these medical bills. I didn't choose for, all this. It's chaos. She can't walk. She's frustrated as all get out because most of her socializing is through some level of activity. And so she's just laid up and she's ticked and it sucks. And that's part of the chaos to accept and come to peace with amidst the pain and the frustration that come with that. And ultimately this too shall pass. And,
Right.
There will be other times that feel much more orderly or at peace, and it ebbs and flows.
Probably something, and it's probably something that she's done so many times, it's when it's something that you do every day. And then one day you just do it and you get hurt.
Exactly. It's bizarre, man. But interestingly enough, right? Like if we're talking about that previous group we were with, the narrative many times, right, could be easily flipped. Hey, you're not coming to church every week. You're not being faithful. You're not living the way that we think you should live as supposedly God's will. Therefore, this bad thing happened. See, look at that.
Yeah,
it's punishment for the wicked.
When somebody would come and ask for prayer, they would basically interrogate them. So let's make sure this isn't God punishing you before we pray for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And we are the judges of that.
To me, sounds very culty. Listeners, let us know if you think. Email to peaceandtoodles@gmail.com and either say cult or no cult. I'll know what you're talking about when you think of this. I would say cult, but not everybody agrees with me.
So is your terminology "I was in a cult" period that you can get behind that statement?
I can say it and not feel like I'm being dishonest, I can say it and not feel like I'm stretching the truth. Like, is it the most culty cult? No. But there was certainly like, like if somebody came to us and it was like a friend of ours and they were telling us about this church they're going to, and they would mention these dynamics, us and our egos are disconnected from that, I think we would tell them they're in a cult.
There you go. Quite possibly. There was one more thing. Back to the bad things happening, right? And accepting the chaos and being at peace with that. And the irony of they get to decide. So when something bad happens to someone who they don't agree with, it's God punishing them and they need to wake up and repent. When it's happening to them, the narrative is different. It's God testing the saints and proving them through their faith.
Yes. God testing the saints.
And it's just like such horse crap of they get to decide when and how that is interpreted and just manipulate and push that out. And most people aren't thinking and they aren't challenging and they're just bobblehead, yes, up and down. Mm-hmm. And those who think freely or challenge are made to be uncomfortable and seem like they're weird or bad or evil. I have to let this cat out of this room real fast. So, yes, culty, manipulative, controlling. Boo for all that.
Yes, boo for all that. You very, clearly seem very disassociated from, that belief structure, where you're at in that point in life. Where would you say you are now, and what are some tools, after casting the old tools aside, what are some new tools you've found to traverse the strange world?
So I think therapy has been very helpful for me. I'm doing group therapy and individual, and just exploring some of my tendencies as a person, how I engage with my partner and people around me, lacking assertive communication as a general, tendency, and just kind of wanting to be a people pleaser or be at peace with everyone and not address things because it's uncomfortable, and uncomfortable conversations are very scary and difficult for me because I then have this is going to go bad. I'm going to be abandoned by this person. And so tying some of that into abandonment. But just general, what they call psycho ed, right? Like language to be able to determine, understand, like I'm projecting my view of someone who looked like Isaiah that I've dealt with before. He's probably just like them. And we do that
right.
with strangers. We do it with familiar people. We do it with our partners. So like even many times I will cast my partner in a role that my dad was having, where he was trying to be controlling and firm and the boss. And so I would say like to my partner, you're not the boss of me. Right. And now my autonomous side is really speaking up and being like, I'm sick of being pushed around and being bossed. We need to fight for our own autonomous opinions, outlooks, feelings, and it's worth that fight just to have an uncomfortable conversation and stand up for that. So that was kind of a long-winded answer in that, but I think being in touch with how my emotions come up, how I view things, why I'm feeling certain things at certain times, and then tying that into spirituality. And, we were designed this way for a reason, and we are all connected. So again, it ties into a little bit of Buddhist outlook as well, all from one. But again, I don't study any particular religion. I think just holding everything up to the litmus test of love, joy, and peace as a foundation, and those forces and individuals who look to enhance that and pursue that, celebrating that and integrating more of that, and those who do the opposite of that, or forces or things need to have boundaries firmly held against them so that they don't affect that relationship that I desire to have with love, joy, and peace, and my fellow people, even if I disagree with them or don't always enjoy spending time with them. There's still a way that we can valuably engage with humanity and nature. I don't know. Does that satisfy what you were looking for?
Absolutely. I feel like there is a growing crowd of I was actually watching a video about this on a channel called Religion for Breakfast, and they were saying how there's this growing demographic of people that called the nuns. Like when statistics are being recorded, surveys are being taken, asking people, what is your religious affiliation? Is the Muslim populations growing? Christianity was going down lately with Trump and the last 4 years. I think that has a lot to do with it. Christianity has grown slightly, but in the midst of all that, there's this growing demographic of people called the nuns, where when asked what spirituality do you identify, or what religion do you identify with, they say none, but we do identify as spiritual. So I feel like there's this growing demographic of unaffiliated folks hanging out on the in-between, right? Value spirituality, but you also value science, logic, rationality. But you don't attach it to a bigger religion. You don't, and when it comes to the theological aspects, you don't know. But I feel like the common denominator for a lot of folks like us is well-being, right?
Yeah.
Because when there's a lot that you don't know, I feel like the things that you do know, it's in relation to the outcome, How we treat each other has a very evident outcome of good and bad, and our actions have a very evident impact that we can know. You can see, you can not even your own life. You can look at other people's life and you can see if we're going off the basis as taking away from well-being is bad, it's bad. Most people, they don't want your well-being being diminished. So why would you want that from somebody else?
Yeah.
So.
No, fair point. Yeah. The nuns. Again, I think that I gravitate to and can connect deeper with the Bible because I'm more familiar with that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say the aspects that highlight and bring up and focus on the well-being of humans, nature, and uplifting that and not infringing on that, not judging and polarizing with people to make them feel lesser than because they view things differently. And so celebrating those, I can easier connect with those, but I also want to keep my heart and mind open to other cultures, walks of faith, things that do also celebrate that same way with different words and maybe a little bit different how, but that principle is still there of connecting with the divine and something outside or bigger than us, but also that we are all connected. And it's
cultivating the fruits of the Spirit.
Exactly right. And so many walks of faith and wisdoms and philosophies do that, and focusing more on that versus how are we different, and let's scrutinize that so that we can tell you you're wrong and make us feel better in our own little.
What special identity do you have? Because this God that keep the box, my God, not your God.
Yeah, ask the question again. You cut out. You said what special.
Oh, what special identity, and what special identity do we garner from our God that we put in a box, that, we subject to these limited expectations, these limited, beliefs, to where, like, that's like, with my outlook towards God, it's a lot like, it's like what Moses Maimonides said, that the only thing we can say about God is what he is not. Because anything we say about him that is puts him in a box. So that was one aspect that really pulled me into agnosticism, is like, there's so many different ideas of God that exist that they're not foolproof. They can be attacked, they can be taken apart. And if God's God, I don't think he can be understood and dissected and combated against man. You don't need to have apologists studying a whole ministry to defend God.
Yes, agreed. So I've been having kind of talks like this with my friend Sunu. I think he's of Indian descent, but he has been very involved in Christianity and ministry, things of that nature. Well, now we've been talking a lot more in regards to like Buddhist awareness type of mindset. So this awareness principle that he keeps asking, and he'll ask me hard questions, and I'm like, my brain hurts now. But anyways, he just sent me this quote. We'll see if it's relevant or not, but not just now, but he sent it to me earlier today. And it says, knowledge is an addiction as drink. Knowledge does not bring understanding. Knowledge can be taught, but not wisdom. There must be freedom from knowledge for the coming of wisdom.
Beautiful.
And so I'm curious, how does that resonate with you, and what stands out to you about that?
And I think of knowledge, again, it's like the blueprint of it that you've kind of constructed in your mind, or that somebody, like an expectation for it, maybe a preconceived notion that isn't in lines with the reality of it. To where wisdom is more experienced, it's admittedly almost more subjective, Wisdom, to me, again, puts an emphasis on the good of life. And sometimes you can be young and insightful, but maybe not wise, Like, I think sometimes wisdom, it's one of those things that does come with time. Oh, my neighbor just texted me and said my lights are on in my car.
Thanks, neighbor. He's looking out for you with love and peace and joy.
He is. He's a good neighbor. Neighborly neighbor.
That's great. So yeah, as I think we probably could wrap up pretty close, but so your lights don't explode.
No, I agree. We try to keep these things around hour and a half, and we've certainly recorded that.
Awesome. Yeah. So what's our final conclusions or reflections here?
I would say my big takeaway is approach people as a mystery. Get to know them. Be patient with them. There's wisdom in admitting what you don't know. because that can really open the veil to like the broader reality of it, right? What are your takeaways from this conversation?
So as I would look at this mountain background behind me, so I took this picture in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's Camelback Mountain.
Oh,
and,
beautiful! Oh,
yeah,
I love the West.
Yeah, I agree. It's just so beautiful and like breathtaking, and so I think just celebrating the journey will be my reflection here, right? And so as I met you, and I don't know, you were like 11, 12 years old, maybe 13, and
probably younger than that.
Yeah. So, but we'd talk about the Bible, and we'd talk about whatever, we'd do athletics, and, we connected there. We'd start working out. We were running, and then just stayed in contact. You were in my wedding and vice versa. And there would be times where we wouldn't talk for months, but, there was always a level of connection that I appreciated. And I think likewise is true for you, but
yes.
I'm just thankful for that journey and seeing you continue to evolve and express yourself in the world the way that you feel connected to, the way that you feel value in, and just celebrating that autonomy of unique expression that you choose to do. And that I appreciate how you do engage in the world with the desire for well-being, betterment, love. And so I appreciate that about you, and I'm thankful to be here with you today.
I'm grateful to have had this conversation with you.
Yes, sir. All right.
Any parting thoughts you'd like to share with the audience?
Nope, I think that's it. Just, do you, be you, don't give a crap what other people think and project upon you. And if you feel like that pressure is, I can't say no to this person or that group or whatever, like, I just encourage you to have that strength and belief within yourself that I don't need these people to be validated. I don't need these people's opinions, their outlook, their supposed leadership to feel validated. I can just be me. And if that's different than what someone else projects on me, I'm willing to fight for my autonomy and expressing myself in the universe. So that would be that.
Beautiful. Very insightful. Very wise. All right. I'll say my parting thoughts my thing I say at the end of every episode. All right, folks. Let's keep traversing this strange world with curiosity, with inquisitiveness, and let's remember to be neighborly to everybody, because at the end of the day, we're all just
strangers in a strange land.
Until next time, everybody, peace.
And we'll turn the lights off.
You like how I just hopped in there at the end? This is Toodles from the future. Have a good week, strangers.
If you would like to contact us, email us at peaceandtoodles@gmail.com. Until next time, salutations, my fellow strangers.
What will they think of next?